So, good evening, everyone. So, this afternoon we will talk about the report that Tondo developed about Taranto Circolare. At a high level, is a study of the circularity level of the city of Taranto, doing a material flow analysis, so understanding the mass of material used in Taranto in some specific sectors and how much of it is actually recovered and reused inside the system. On top of the material flow analysis, we did also an analysis of some main indicators, and also we did some proposals or what kind of projects could be aspiring to develop in the city of Taranto. So today we will divide the speech in 4 different speakers. So we'll open Giovanna Matrone that will present a little bit the importance of measuring circularity in the context of Taranto. Then will be Shyaam Ramkumar. I hope I pronounced it well the surname, and that is our circular economy expert, also working with Circularize, who helped us setting up the methodology. Then myself, Francesco Castellano, will present some of the main results, and then we'll close the speech Antonino Biundo that will present some of the proposal, mainly focusing on the agri-food sector, which is also his own specialization at the University of Bari, where he's a research fellow. So I will leave the speech now to Giovanna Matrone and let you talk, Giovanna.
Thanks, Francesco. Ciao, everybody, and welcome to this webinar, and thanks for joining us to talk about our project, Taranto Circolare. So, about the page, Francesco, I will ask you, okay, thank you very much. So, basically, we run this project, we are running this project to create a positive impact by initiating a transformation from a circular perspective of Taranto city and its area. For this reason, an analysis of the city, of the status of the city, has been done to identify what is the potential of the city, but also to encourage a transformation, to look forward. For this reason, the circular portal for Taranto we developed is a key point for project, process and services at both private and public levels. More in details, the project is divided in 3 main steps. So the first one, as also Francesco anticipated, is the measure. The measure of a circular level of the city through an analysis of material and energy flows, also considering the models, the activities that are already on the territory. A second step is the promotion through the platform of a collaboration between the different actors that are in the city and in the area to promote new activities and not only at a local level, but also with the links at international levels. As third step, so we are looking at the future, we also try to develop new projects to increase the level of circularity of the territory. Okay, so these are the main steps, and we start from the measure. Why measure? When we are moving from a linear system, a linear model to a circular one, we need to highlight the impact of this model and also its effectiveness. And we need to do this in a quantitative way. This is really a key point to make it successfully. But the measures are not so easy to do. So we have several indicators, and these are linked to the level of the implementation of circular practices, because you can imagine that the complexity is completely different. Many indicators are linked to the micro level, so at the single organization level. Meso, so in intermediate complexity level, when we have a set of organization, industrial symbiosis, some elements connected between each other. And of course, at micro level, when the area of interest is increasing, so we see cities, regions, of course, we can increase this complexity. In general, an indicator very robust, let's say, and flexible to all these levels is the circular material use rate, CMUR. And here on the right side, you can see that is defined as the ratio between the use of recycled material and the sum of virgin and recycled materials. Of course, more are recycled material we use, less the raw material, more is the circularity level of the entity we are evaluating the characteristics. At Italian level, we are quite good, let's say in this way, at least according to some reports from 2020, because we are more than 20% level of CMUR, that is higher than the European average, that is about 13%. But in general, if you see on the globe, on the center of the page, the global economy circularity rate, according to 2023 report, globally shared, is only at 7.2%. And let's say this is also quite stable in the last years. That means we are not improving. So any effort we can see in the direction to increase the circularity level of the systems is really appreciated. Remaining so at micro level, so at the level of complexity of a city in particular, there is an increasing focus on circular cities. Because basically these are a key dimension where people stay, and these are also very important to implement sustainability in general in the urban areas. Recently, we could see interesting analysis done for European cities like Rotterdam and Glasgow. And this kind of analysis are recognized as important tools for both take a picture of the status of circularity of a city, but also to see the direction, to identify the direction to take to increase this level. And this tool are also very useful for all those that have to take decisions on these topics, for example, stakeholders, but more also policymakers. We were talking about this some minutes ago. In general, a circular city can be defined according to Ellen MacArthur Foundation as a city characterized from one side by the promotion of principal circularity on all levels, but also considering also on the other side the wellness of the people. So we have to see the cities as regenerative urban systems at all levels. And if this is the status of generally speaking of the cities, our focus, as already anticipated, was on the city of Taranto and its area. Taranto is a city with a very old story, very interesting. So developing the report, I could also discover a very interesting part of his story. In general, it's a territory in the middle of Puglia region in the south of Italy. And we see several municipalities, about 30, but for sure the main center is Taranto itself, Taranto city, with in general on all territory more than 500,000 inhabitants. Other two important centers we will see also later are Martina Franca more in the north and Massafra in the northwest. If we focus on this territory more from activities perspective, enterprise perspective, there are on all territory more than 30,000 enterprises, but the most are middle or very small, more or less more than 100, no more, could count more than 50 employees internally. There are several sectors touched by these enterprises, the tertiary sector, the trade, but also some technical activities, and for sure, as a characteristic of all the region, accommodation and catering services are very important. If we focus then on the activities with more predominant impact on this area, we could recognize Leonardo on the aerospace, acting on aerospace, Heineken in Massafra, so beer production facility, while in the Taranto city area, we see the predominance of Acciaierie d'Italia, that is a very big factory in this territory, as well as the Eni refinery, and Vestas blades for wind turbine blade production. So these are really the main activities characterizing the city. So I leave Shyaam to continue for the methodological approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Giovanna. Yeah, I wanted to share a little bit about how we decided to analyze the sort of urban system, the urban metabolism of Taranto. As Giovanna mentioned, there's different kind of layers, the macro, the meso, and the micro layers as well. And the sort of main methodology that we kind of employed to look at the urban metabolism, the kind of flow of resources through the city. You can imagine with hundreds of thousands of inhabitants, over 30,000 companies, there's a lot of activity that goes through Taranto. So the main kind of methodology that we use to kind of understand the flows of materials is something called material flow analysis. Basically, you would take an account of what are the inflows of resources into the city, how does it build up in stocks, things like buildings, for example, things like the built environment, different structures, and then what are the sort of outflows in terms of wastes, and what are the kind of activities to recapture some of those wastes. And part of that informs the sort of level of circularity as well. Once you have an understanding of these inflows, these outflows, the buildup of stocks, you're able to kind of calculate some of the indicators that Giovanna shared earlier in terms of the circularity of the city. In addition to that, it's also important to kind of consider the areas of expertise, the kind of macro sectors and industries that are important to the city. And so we kind of employed this hybrid approach for that. And in order to do that, in this slide, you can kind of see the different steps. The first main one is to sort of define the boundaries of the system. So how do we kind of capture what we consider Taranto? Is it the province? Is it the metro city area? What are the kind of system boundaries that we're looking at? So we kind of defined and identified those boundaries, and also looking at it from a time perspective as well. What is the temporal boundary that we're considering? And we kind of looked at these different data points and indicators as of 2020 as the sort of temporal boundary. And then the next step, as I mentioned before, is to kind of look at those reference sectors to focus the data collection. What are the key sectors that we want to sort of analyze that are important to the city from an economic perspective, impact perspective, et cetera. And then really kind of collecting data to conduct this urban metabolism, this flow of resources and accumulation of stocks. And for that, we decided to kind of use external databases as a starting point, looking at Exaiobase, which has a great database of material flows, Eurostat, ISTAT from the Italian Statistics Bureau, for kind of detailed data on these economic activities, the principal companies in the territory. And then, of course, with these databases, it's also important to contextualize them to the city as well. So in order to kind of understand how these more macro databases reflect the activities in the city, we also specifically focused on topics of waste and looked at data from the Taranto Chamber of Commerce, from ISPRA, the National Waste Database, et cetera, to kind of contextualize all this information to the system boundary that we defined of Taranto. The result of all of that, we kind of looked at the flows, the inflows, the outflows, waste, movement of materials, volumes, number of workers, et cetera, for these kind of 5 macro sectors, which we identified as sort of important to the city. Giovanna already highlighted some of the companies operating in the city. But the kind of sectors that we focused on were really agri-food and the blue economy, looking at the production, distribution, consumption of food products, agricultural products. It's a significant proportion of the province, significantly higher than the Italian average in Taranto. Next one is sort of manufacturing of consumer goods. There are many sort of prominent companies in the Taranto region, over 2,000 companies that are focused in this sector, making it an important one to look at. Energy was a big one as well. Electricity production and distribution, especially of natural gas. There's very high energy consumption in Taranto compared to other provinces in the region, and relatively low renewable energy production. So we kind of analyzed that as well in the study. Construction is a big one. It's a big one for many cities, looking at the buildings, the built environment, renovations that are happening. There are over 3,000 enterprises in this area, and there's considerable waste being produced by the construction sector as well. And then the last one is the waste sector, looking at waste treatment, recovery, and disposal activities. And half of the sort of regional waste is processed in Taranto, making this a sort of key sector to look at as well. So a bit of an overview of some of the kind of boundaries of the system that we analyzed in the study. And I guess I'll hand it over to Francesco to kind of go over the results of this material flow analysis.
Okay, thanks, Shyaam. In general, this is the map. So the material flow analysis we developed for the city of Taranto. As already been said, the period, the time of the year is the 2020. We collected, as Shyaam said, from different kind of sources in order to create this map. As you can see, it's kind of evident from this visual that the manufacturing sector is really the main one. You can see the mass that is actually moved for the manufacturing sector is by far much more than all the others, and this is mainly linked to the 2 main companies present in the territory, with the Acciaierie d'Italia being the main one. And as you can see, we mapped all the inputs, tried to divide it also for a few categories. So analyzing biomass, mineral and chemicals, metals, and energy for each of the sector. The total material that is arriving inside the city being used is around 16 million tons, and as already described, is mainly used, the majority, around 14 million tons, is used for the manufacturing sector. Of course, as already been said, the energy sector is also a relevant one, and you can see also some kind of symbiosis. So because for example, the energy used for the production inside Ilva is the thermal energy is flowing inside the energy producing, being recovered and producing energy that is then used again for all the city. A part that we focused kind of a lot was also to analyze the agri-food sector, because we consider it to be kind of very relevant historically. And so what we did, in addition to develop an analysis of the inflow and the outflow, we also developed an analysis of the bioproducts. So we made an estimation, which is not actually coming from official sources, because bioproducts are not actually mapped so they are not considered waste. And so in some way, they remain we believe as an opportunity to develop new product and new kind of services that could be relevant for the industry of Taranto. And that's probably what Antonino will talk a little bit more later on. And then the last part that you can see again in this flow, you can see on the right the estimation of the emission, but also how all the waste is treated inside Taranto. As Shyaam said already, the waste sector is actually kind of relevant in the city of Taranto, and so we divided it in the way in which materials are recovered and how they are recovered, and finally what part is actually disposed. Going a little bit farther to the city of Taranto, we also actually calculate how circular is the city. And we said, as already been declared, we calculated 8.5% circularity. In this analysis, we excluded, this is a little bit technical probably, but we excluded the part of ISPRA that is called R10. And this is why, because we didn't consider it as a real recovery of material input, the section. As I said, the total mass in the city is actually almost more close to 70 million tons. And another point that was already touched, the percentage of renewable energy is actually kind of low in the city of Taranto, especially compared to the national average. So it's only 21% against a national average of around 40%. So it's really, and considering the opportunity of the city of Taranto, saying that there is a lot of sun, there is a lot of wind, so we see a lot of potential for a much more important development of the renewable energy sector. In the same way, the recovery of waste, excluding R10, R12, is also kind of limited from our point of view, which we see so still a great potential also on the waste industry to improve this part. Going a little bit more in detail on the mass regarding the treated waste, as you can see, the majority is coming from the manufacturing, but there is also waste coming from the waste sector itself. I know it might seem strange in a way if you don't know so much about this topic, but it's actually very normal, because in treating waste itself, you're producing waste. And then there is a small relevant part coming from agri-food. So the after manufacturing, so the second sector is waste itself, and then there is construction. Going a little bit more in deep into the agri-food byproducts, where we think there is really a lot of opportunities to develop new kind of products or services. As I say, we made an estimation of how much it could be produced in the city of Taranto, and it's actually kind of a lot, because we are talking of around 1.5 million almost. And so, coming, a big part is the livestock, which could be probably managed in a better way, even producing biogas more than is actually produced at the moment. But there is also a part regarding dairy waste, which is also very interesting, or oil production, or wine production, or agricultural residues that could be also interesting usage. Another part where we also suggested probably a more attentive manage is all regarding the sludges. So this is a focus more on urban sludges, but we believe there is also part of industrial sludges, and which we couldn't estimate properly. So to this amount of waste that we already see, and the majority, as you can see, is going to the landfill, so it's not treated. So So we do see it as a big opportunity for the city. And again, we propose different kind of project again in our report. This is again the part of the energy on which I already talked, but as you can see, the majority is still thermoelectric from fossil fuel production. And this is finally the part of construction. What is interesting about construction is that while we see a high rate of recovery from the industry, based on different studies, and also interviews that we did in the sector, it doesn't seem recovery that is real recovery, meaning that the material is not being really recovered. So at the end, it's considered to be recycled, but it's not looping back in the industry and reused. So and there again, we propose different kind of opportunities in order to improve this sector. So now I leave a little bit the talk to Antonino to talk more about this project proposal.
Hello everyone. So thank you to the previous speakers who really introduced all the parts, and it's very important to have all this overview because we are focusing on a specific region that has specific components in terms of markets and products that we can produce more products, especially if we think about circularity and virtuosity. So luckily, there are already actors in the territory of Taranto that are proposing different projects, especially for the agri-food byproduct system. So when we talk about byproducts, and especially about agri-food, we need to consider everything that is produced in the land, of course, of the Taranto, and of course we can focus also on other regions, but we always need to consider like a bottom-up approach. So what we have in our territory, so then we can produce something with a sustainable way and a circular way. And of course, we are what we understood is that we have approximately 1 million tons of residue from the agri-food value chain. And all of this comes from the agricultural residues, manure, dairy waste, and byproducts from the beverage industries. Of course, like there are some projects that can lead to a better proposals, but of course, and we have to also identify what can be maybe mismanaged with this kind of byproducts. So, for example, if we consider the animal production, so what we have for sure is the production as a byproduct of animal manure. We have the production of course, like we produce around 700,000 tons of byproducts from the livestock sector. And this needs to be used in an efficient way to make sure that we can produce more products and more, products that can be further generated for specific added value products. So, for example, one of the main transformation of this kind of byproduct of animal manure is the production of biogas, and that can be converted into biomethane. So, for example, there is this startup, Sanaterra Bio, that uses different products such as zeolites for transforming this kind of manure also in other kind of products that can absorb and can use better the natural material present in this byproduct. So another very important market in the Taranto region is, of course, the production of milk and dairy products. But this means also the production of many byproducts from this sector. One of the main byproducts is, of course, whey. So whey is what comes out from the production of cheeses. But all this liquid byproduct is still rich in nutrients and other components, for example, also a lot of water that needs to be transformed or needs to be reused for specific applications. Right now, what is used mainly for these products. This byproduct is used mainly for animal feed, so in terms of pig farms or other animal farming. But of course, this mixture still has nutrients that can be either extracted or can be transformed through specific technologies. So one of the main products that is present in this mixture is, of course, proteins. So proteins, and especially seroproteins, are present in this in the cheese whey, and they can be extracted through filtration systems to create especially concentrated proteins, but also to transform these into production of peptides, for example, through lactic acid fermentation, especially for the food and the pharmaceutical industry. Of course, still we have certain products and certain other byproducts that can come from other liquid, let's say, market. So, for example, the beverage industry. And what we realized based on our analysis was that in Taranto, there is a huge production of beer, wine, and olive oil. So, of course, based on the beer production, based on the beer market, what we have as a byproduct is for sure exhausted wheat or spent wheat, then spent yeast that can be transformed again, and finally wastewater that needs to be reused in a certain way. The composition, of course, can be different, but especially for exhausted wheat and for spent yeast, we can reuse this not only as animal nutrition, but together, for example, as a source of nitrogen, but also in the human diet. From the waste from the wine production, what we produce is mainly mainly pomace and lees that are rich, for example, in polyphenolic substances that are like antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. Of course, then a certain transformation can be used for the production of specific products for high-value markets. So, for example, the cosmetic, or in terms of agriculture, such as fertilizers and animal feed. Another certain local studies can be focused not only on the province and on the geographical region of Taranto, but in terms of Apulia region, there is a lot of projects that are improving, especially the circularity and the virtuosity of the reuse of these byproducts. So, for example, the three case studies that we focused on are Distilleria Barten, Bienutra, and the Riwao. So Distilleria Barten uses it uses different products and byproducts from the wine production for the production of different materials and different drinks. But of course, they can also use this for the production of biogas and to transform byproducts coming from other parties for the production of products that can be used especially for the bioenergy sector. Bionutra instead uses waste from the extra virgin olive oil production, so wastewater as well, that can use certain ingredients present in there for products and for markets that are with very high value, so pharmaceutical or cosmetics. Riwao is a startup instead that valorizes waste oil for the production of certain substitutes. For example, substitutes from castor oil. Castor oil comes from India region, the Indian from India, and maybe it can be replaced, for example, with other products directly from local value chains. Then we have to consider also other, not only what is grown from land, but also what grows in the sea. So, for example, what we have is in Taranto is a huge production of mussels. Mussels from Taranto and Apulia in general. It's the third place, is the third market in Italy for production of mussels. Of course, this produces a lot of waste because, of course, mussels has also their shells. So there are several laboratories, but also several projects that are aiming for the valorization, for the upcycling of this waste. So, and especially one of these project is a life program project. It's called Green Life for Seas. That is it wants to demonstrate the scalability of the project for the transformation of mussel shells in the final fate of sediments that can be used, for example, for different systems. So, like the mussel shell flour that is used as additive for the cement or for the stabilization of sediments. So now I leave yes, I leave the floor to Francesco.
Yeah, I will not present all the projects because there are really many. So the aim was mainly to focus now on the agri-food, but as you can see also in the presentation, we touch different parts also regarding more the anthropogenic impact of the waste in the marine in the sea, and how it's possible probably to recover also this material, or probably even other approach to integrate inside the blue economy with the algae sector, where there are very interesting projects already developed in Apulia that could create an impact again for the region. There is also another part regarding all the flows coming out or byproduct and waste coming out from the steelworks, or a specific part focusing on the textile sector and the construction. So what I definitely suggest to you is to actually download the report. You can go on the website, tarantocircolare.teach. We can put it also in the chat. So, and you can download the report for free. And there you can find many more projects that we suggested for the different topic I was also talking at the beginning. In analyzing, what I want to say in analyzing the Taranto region, we also saw many different realities that are already really working on the topic. I was really impressed of what is still a little bit hidden in the region of Taranto. And I was really proud of all the research projects that had been carried out by the university, research centers, and company already operating in Taranto. Very quickly, I also would like to thank all the partners of the projects, the universities, the grants that we won and that supported the activity, and also the industrial partner that also supported in the analysis. And yeah, now very quickly about Tondo. So as you've seen, we are an organization focusing on circular economy, and this is a little bit of the team. You already saw a few people. And yeah, so if you have any other information you want to know, you can write directly to me or info@tondo.tech. I will leave now. I stop sharing the presentation. If there is any question coming from the public, please raise your hand. I see also some people I know, for example, Serena, do you have any question regarding the study? Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I allowed to talk you. Now
nice. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to interact. I was like, should I go in the Q&A? Should I go in the chat? No, it's super interesting. I have to admit, for me, it's the first time to see the study itself. I was obviously not involved, and I'm pretty new to this Tondo community. But what I really appreciated is how very clearly you have identified, opportunities in the area and translated them into projects that then Taranto can actually work on. I feel like from other studies that I keep seeing, mainly from other industry, from my perspective, that translation of what it actually means to do next is always a little bit lacking. So this is definitely something that I'm very happy to see from my perspective.
Good. And on top of that, I want to say, yeah, we are really working on the next steps with different kind of projects. Actually, we just applied to an Horizon. I just got the email, so the final. So let's see if it's going through, and that would be an amazing next steps. And we are also considering other next steps that could be really into implementing some of the suggestions that we did, or also to support the financing and the further development of this idea already present in the territory. So I don't know if there is any other question, or otherwise I'll leave also a little bit the table to Giovanna. Giovanna, there is something else you wanted to add?
No, Francesco, thank you very much. It was really a pleasure to stay with you on this project. All of you, I mean.
Yeah, so if there are no other questions, if everyone is a bit shy, it's fine. So I would like to thank, first of all, I see Rise hand again. No.
Yes, it's me again, Francesco.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I just wanted maybe to break the ice and ask a question, which is, what were your biggest learning from this project, and what would you do different if you were to do the same research now that it's no longer pandemic, that, you know, like things have changed further over the last 4 years? Maybe just a question on what would be different now to do a research like this.
Okay, I can probably, yeah, I can try to reply, then probably also I'll leave also to Shyaam or Giovanna or Antonino. But so probably what I learned, I think I learned a lot. It was really a lot. It's a word I didn't know, so it took me really. We did this study for more than a year. So it was really a long process. And so the part of how to collect data, how to analyze data, where you could find them, how reliable are the data, because how many country check we had to do to actually find reliable data. And so probably going back in my next study, just I would focus more on the territory and analyzing even more all the companies, getting to know them, talking with the people even more. This is something that we did, but I would do it even more since the beginning. While at the beginning, we spent a lot of time in database, which are useful, but of course, the most important is the territory, and talking with people with the territory, listen to them, and so yeah, these are, and in general, yeah, I learned many indicators. It was super interesting. Plus, now we are developing a last tool regarding how to define even better all the indicators at city level. This is the last part of the project. So I think it was a super interesting project. I really hope we'll have a further impact. So, and Shyaam, I don't know, Giovanna, if you want to add something as well.
Yeah, I can add a little bit as well. Indeed, as Francesco mentioned, the methodology that we followed, it's also followed by kind of other organizations developing these city reports initially, because as Francesco mentioned, there's the sort of lack of data. Which also highlights some of the things maybe that cities globally should start collecting in order to have this better handle on the metabolism, material flows in their cities. Because there's no sort of reliable databases for it, you kind of have to start at the top, at the national level or the sort of global level, and then bring it down to the level of a city. And when you do that, there's a lot of assumptions that you make about this information, which then leads to some weird inaccuracies or weird things that you have to correct for once you start kind of getting more information from city stakeholders. So yeah, as Francesco mentioned, getting the input from the companies on the ground in the cities and having them kind of provide this kind of information, which is also a challenge if they don't want to necessarily share all of this data to make that very transparent. But I think that kind of combination of bottom up and top down data is sort of what we have to rely on today. But if in the future we get a better handle on the metabolism of cities, what actually happens in terms of the resource use, what happens in terms of waste treatment, etc., these kinds of studies will be made much smoother, and will also really help the city and its inhabitants, the companies that are in these areas, better understand some of these opportunities that can result as well.
Okay.
I can add something from my perspective. What I found really challenging is the complexity. So managing the complexity. When I start to work on this, I suppose that that was easy, but for sure easier. So maybe in the future, looking at what we can do in the future, we have for sure to consider when we start a project that managing complexity is a main variable. And especially when we work with these microsystems, micro areas.
Maybe something that I would like to add, of course, also, and thank you all for, adding also your part. Sometimes in the rural areas, like many data are not present. So it's like the digging of the data and understanding better how a system works, even though it's smaller, can be more difficult. But the good thing is that sometimes this approach that the people want to improve the system, want to collaborate also together in terms of approach and creating industrial symbiosis. This is very promising and very inspiring. So this should always be brought up to other people that have maybe new ideas and can relate maybe to some people that have been through the same path, to make sure that we don't make exactly the same mistakes. Actually, we'll learn from others. So this is very important, and I think like what we collected in this report was especially like the idea of understanding how a process and a project was done, so through the process especially, and understanding how a person and maybe an institution was even included in a certain project. So this is very, very important for future generation, for future projects, and how to create a more solid, or anyway, like a more like a system that can thrive, for sure.
Good. Good. Thanks, Antonino, also for your point of view. I don't know if there is any additional questions or anything, or in any case, if you have any question on the report, again, you can write to us to the email you can find on the website or that I shared before. And so if there are no additional questions, I would say thanks, especially to the speakers, Shyaam, Giovanna, Antonino. Thanks to all the people listening. And yeah, again, have a nice evening. And yeah, hope to talk with you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.